Hello, movie nerds, and welcome back to Cinematic Sarcastic, podcast that talks all things movies and television. I'm Natalie, and I'm your host. On today's episode, we are going to talk about the remake of Roadhouse. It's going to be like partially a review and partially just a generalized discussion on why Hollywood continues to do this to us for whatever reason. Like 100%, I feel like the new Roadhouse is just a cash grab, and you cannot convince me otherwise. So for anyone who's not familiar with this franchise, the original Roadhouse, I believe, came out mid to late 80s and starred Patrick Swayze. And it was this rundown little bar. I want to say it was taking place in Missouri as well. And they hire Patrick Swayze to come in and sort of be a bouncer because the clientele are just rowdy. It's, you know, this bad environment. They have like this cage sort of system around the stage area where the live bands play, just so that the bands don't get hit in the face with like beer bottles and things. There's like this love interest story that happens. It's a good time. Now, the original Roadhouse, I don't think when it came out was, you know, like this great blockbuster, but it is one of those movies that I feel like over the years you kind of, you know, like it a little bit more. It's become more of a cult classic, and I definitely have some good respect for it. I love Patrick Swayze. I liked a lot of the movies that he was in. You know, I grew up watching him, so I have, you know, some generalized love for the films that he has done. Now, the new version, I feel like somebody, whoever it was, the showrunner, the executives, just took all of these puzzle pieces of what Roadhouse was, right? We've got a bar, we've got, you know, some hoodlums, we've got a muscle-bound, you know, lead actor, and they put them all together but have absolutely no idea anything about what the original was trying to do or what it was about the original that people love so much. It's like this dead copy. And I feel like that's a lot of what is happening with the reboots, is that the people that are rebooting them either have never watched the original or they genuinely have no idea like what nuances or what values and core things are happening inside that movie that made people love them in the first place. I would say the Roadhouse remake genuinely is just like, how many fights can we squeeze into one film? How many protagonists and antagonists and, you know, all of these things. Like Conor McGregor is in this, and Jake Gyllenhaal, who I believe is only buff because he carried the majority of this movie on his back the entire time. Like, I think that Jake Gyllenhaal is a really good actor. I genuinely would wonder what it was about rebooting Roadhouse interested him, and I would bet money that it was the money and it wasn't the story or something that appealed to him. And I think that's where the big difference comes in to people sitting down and watching like a reboot movie or sitting down and watching something like Dune Part 2, right? Where you know that Denis really, really loved that source material, really, really worked hard to make the best version of that adaptation that he potentially could. And Roadhouse is just some people got together and how many fight sequences can we do? And the majority of them, honestly, like the fight sequences to me in the new Roadhouse felt fake. And in saying that, like, I'm not saying like, I think in other movies, you know, the fight sequences are realistic. Obviously, we know it's a fight. We know that those scenes are choreographed, and we know that they're not genuinely, unless accidentally, hitting each other. But in Roadhouse, it just felt weird. Like, there were some fight sequences, the first one, like the very first one before you ever get introduced to Jake Gyllenhaal's character, there's a fight sequences between what I would consider just two good old boys. I think one of them is honestly like a rapper, the dude with all of the tattoos on his face. I recognize him, but can't think of what his name is off the top of my head. But if you're watching that fight sequence, it's the first time in all of my, you know, time watching movies that I feel like I've ever seen an up close fight sequence that felt like it was CGI. Like there was something weird going on with that fight. Like, I've seen definitely some fight sequences and stuff. Anybody who sat down and watched a Marvel film knows that there are some sort of like long distance shots that they do with the characters, you know, with CGI. Obviously, you look at something like Spider-Man as well. You know, a lot of that stuff is CGI because a lot of those characters can do things real people cannot do. But I don't think even in a Marvel film, I have ever seen like an up close, like a shot up close fight sequence that felt like those two actors were not even like next to each other. Like, it was the strangest sort of thing. And I felt like the majority of the movie really just feels like a dead copy, you know, like I mentioned. It just feels like they're going through the motions. They have, you know, the script, they have the general idea of what the original one was like, but there's no emotion behind it. There's no passion in playing these characters, because why would you really be passionate about playing in a film that's already been done before and that people probably are going to like better? It just surprises me that despite the fact that when these remakes and reboots come out, people are irritated by them. Nobody wants to go see them. Few people do, and the majority of the people that do see them don't rate them very highly. Like, these movies are not making money. I feel like whoever had the decision of deciding not to put Roadhouse in theaters was that dude should get a raise, because smartest man in the room. Like, he knew that this was not going to make money. And I can't imagine, as executives or as the people at these production houses that are making these calls, I really just struggle to understand in my mind with how many, you know, published books there are every year, how many writers, like genuinely good writers, Hollywood could get their hands on, like why they insist on hiring writers that have no credentials, hiring people to remake movies that should just be left alone. You know, we know that they're remaking Neverending Story. We know that there is a reboot to The Crow happening. We know that they're going to reboot this, that, and the other. Like, there's so many reboots that are coming out. And I have to beg the question, why? When we're not asking for them, when we don't like them, why is Hollywood just hell-bent on giving us this crap? Because it's genuinely tiring. Like, I am very tired of not only having to like watch these movies to review them. Like, I love doing reviews. You know, I love being able to kind of share my ideas and hope that there is an audience out there that will talk to me about these films and TV series and all that stuff. I enjoy that. I love being able to like chat and stuff with people on YouTube about films, but genuinely, I want to be able to do it about films that people are passionate about and not have all of the comments be like, yeah, this sucked, that's a shame. You know, I want to be able to rave about movies like Dune 2 and have Dune 2 not be the outlier, not be the sole movie that was great that year. You know, I miss the days of old, I guess, when there were so many good movies. You had to sort of pick and choose which one you were going to see first that weekend and which one you were going to see a couple of days after, you know, and those days appear to be gone. And it just seems like all we have now are remakes and then just terribly written scripted shows, you know, and it's rare nowadays that we get something that is genuinely good. And I feel like people cling to that and are excited for that because it is so rare these days. And I hope that that turns around. Genuinely, I do, because I really just don't want to continue to go on year after year, seeing remake after remake. It's old. It was old 5 years ago. It's exceptionally old now. I'm ready for some new stuff. I'm ready for some new material. I'm ready for some genuinely good movies. And I know that there must be still people that are working, you know, in the movie industry. Obviously, the people that are not making millions of dollars a pop, the ones that show up every day because they are genuinely passionate about filmmaking. I really want to see more of that. happen in Hollywood. More people stepping forward that are just genuinely passionate about making movies, because I feel like that is the thing that's missing from the majority of them, is that we're just missing people who are passionate about making films. So hopefully we will see that turn around. I would love to know what you guys thought of Roadhouse if you've watched this one. Subscribe if you want to join the Movie Nerd family, and I hope to see you in the next episode.